To be a pastor's wife is a tougher job than any other thing you can think of. So it's not the same as being a regular wife. My name is Taredite Ojoko, and I am the love doctor. You see, one of the greatest desires of my heart is to see marriages thrive, families established, and relationships do well. This is what drives what I do. And so I'm going to be starting a series. I think I shared this on my social media platforms, that I'm going to be doing a series for that single girl who is already engaged to be married to a pastor, or that lady who has an open mind that, well, I don't know, maybe I may marry a pastor, I may not marry a pastor. And even that one who says, God forbid, I don't want to marry a pastor. And let me tell you, for those who say, God forbid, I want to marry a pastor, the response I usually give to them is, so if the man comes and he has all the qualities that you want in a man, at least basically all the qualities, because nobody can really have 100% of what we want in a man, but at least the basic, the foundation, and the very important ones. And then he comes to you, and then you refuse to marry him because he's a pastor. Makes no sense. Or what if you get married and after then he becomes a pastor? What happens? So just keep an open mind and follow me on this teaching series. I'm going to be preparing you in case you want to marry a pastor, or you find yourself being married to a pastor because you don't know where the wind of life, wind of change can take you to. It can blow you to anywhere. So just relax and listen. It's going to be a conversation, but I guarantee you that you're going to get principles that would help you in case you end up being a pastor's wife. So for me, it starts with number one principle, which is self-awareness, self-discovery. Being a pastor's wife, you're going to be exposed to things and stuff that being a regular wife may not expose you to. All the consequences or the degree to which you were exposed to when you're a regular wife may differ from when you're a pastor's wife. So you need to know who you are from the beginning. Before you become somebody's wife, before you become a pastor's wife, who are you? Do you know who you are? Check your personality traits. I would advise you that you do a self-analysis. But if you think that you cannot get an honest answer from yourself, you can ask people closest to you to tell you your personality type. What kind of person are you? Are you an extrovert, an introvert? Are you loud? Are you cool, calm, and collected? You need to find out all of this. What are your abilities? What are your skills? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Do you know what this will do for you? Because all of these will affect and impact on the role that you will play as a pastor's wife. So you know what you're bringing to the table, and you need to be armed with the knowledge of who you are, because people are the most difficult resources to handle. And I tell you, church folks are beautiful. They are beautiful. Let me just use that word. They are beautiful. They are going to test your values. They are going to test your emotions. They are going to test who you say you are. And so you need to be prepared and armed to know that in this situation, this is where I can behave. That's why I say you need to do self-awareness analysis. And why is that very important also? You need to know your trigger points, your emotional trigger points. So for example, you are very impatient and you think you can be an effective pastor wife with all your impatience. They will try your patience. People will try your patience. And so you don't need to have your husband now putting out all the fires that you set. Now the man is trying to manage his people, the congregation, and he's for the fires that you set. So he's been distracted from preaching. He's been distracted from doing the work God has called him to do, because he has a wife who is very impatient and who is temperamental. So you need to know all of this so that you can tell yourself, I need to work harder on myself if I really want to marry a pastor, or let me just carry my load and marry someone else. So check who you are, then have a general sense of where God is taking you to. It's good for you to discover purpose before you get married, but let me say, people like us, some of us didn't discover purpose until after we got married. So I can't say there is no hard and fast rule about it. But you see, something about us, for me, is that before then, I had been living pockets of my purpose without really knowing it. So certain things had already been happening in my life, which now culminated a few years into my marriage, that this is who God has called me to be, or this is what God has called me to be. So it's also good to have a general sense of where God is calling you to go, so that you will know whether it can sync with being a pastor's wife. It can sync with running a ministry, particularly when you're marrying somebody who is like a general overseer or who is starting a ministry. It's different from when your husband is an employed pastor in another ministry. It's different. So there are two different roles. So whichever your role may be that you may end up, you need to know who you are, discover what God has called you to be, or have a general idea of what God has called you to be. Because if you do not know all of this and you now become a pastor's wife, you will be frustrated. There are so many pastor's wives who are frustrated because they have low self-esteem and they don't have healthy self-concept. Because part of becoming self-aware is that you have a self-concept that you know whether it's healthy or sick. I tell you, if you don't have a healthy self-concept, you will be dealt with by people in church. They will just walk past you. You are standing beside your husband. They will go and kneel down before, Daddy, good morning. Daddy, how are you? And you are there. Nobody has noticed you. And then you start fuming internally. That's why you need to have a healthy self-esteem, healthy self-concept that no matter what they throw at you, you are standing. So today, the only principle I want to take for this one is self-awareness. Young girl, before you say yes to that pastor, do you know who you are? Have you sat down to do your SWOT analysis? Your strength, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. If you don't know what to do, Google and ask people also closest to you so that you don't become a baggage to a man's destiny of fulfilling God's purpose for his life and leading men to Christ. God bless you. Thank you. Tune in again for another episode of Preparing to be a Pastor's Wife. And for those of you who are already pastor's wives, don't worry. I'm going to take care of you in other episodes. But for this one, let me prepare the ones who are about getting married. God bless you. Bye.